Hello and welcome. Today we'll explore one of the foundational concepts in Java, variables. Whether you are getting started with Java or brushing up for an interview, this session will help you understand how variables work and how to use them effectively in your code. So, what exactly is a variable? Think of a variable as a labeled container that holds a piece of data. In Java, you have to specify the type of data the container holds. And once labeled, you can access or change the data using that label. In Java, first you declare a variable with a type, for example, int age. This tells Java you are creating a variable called age that will hold an integer. Then you initialize it by assigning it a value. For example, age equals to 25. You can also do both in one step, which is int age equals to 25. Java requires variables to be initialized before use, or you will get a compile time error. Types of variables in Java. There are three main types: local, instance, and static. Each behaves differently depending on where and how it's declared. We'll walk through the examples of each. Local variables. Local variables are declared inside method. Here in example, consider the method which contains one variable which is int x equals to 10. Here x is only accessible within that method. Once the method ends, x is gone. Also, if you forget to initialize x, Java will complain there is no default value for local variables. Instance variables. Instance variables are declared in a class but outside of any method. For example, consider a class person which declares a variable string name. Here name is an instance variable. If you create two person objects, each will have its own name field. These are initialized when the object is created. Static variables. Static variables belong to the class, not the object. Here is an example. Class counter which contains static variable static int count equal to 0. This count variable is shared among all the instances of the counter class. If one object changes it, all others see the new value. This is useful for keeping track of things like the number of created objects. Data types in Java. Java uses two main types of data. One is primitive types and second is non-primitive types. In primitive types, we have int, boolean, char, etc. On other hand, in non-primitive types, we have string, arrays or objects. Consider the example here, int num equal to 0, which is a primitive type, and string name equal to Alice, which is a non-primitive type. Num holds a primitive value and name holds a reference to a string object. Variable naming rules. When naming variables, start with a letter, dollar or underscore. No spaces or symbols like @ or ampersand. Don't use Java's keyword like class or static. Be careful, Java is case sensitive. Age with all lowercase and age with a capital are two different variables. Variable scope and lifetime. Scope means where a variable is accessible, whereas lifetime means how long it exists in memory. Local variables exist only within a method or block. Instance variable exists as long as the object exists, whereas static variables exist from the time the class is loaded until the program ends. Default values. Local variables don't have default values. You must assign them. But for instance and static variables, Java provides defaults. For int, default value is 0. For boolean, default is false. And for object references like string, default value is null. So if you forget to initialize a class level variable, Java will handle it. Final variables. If you use the final keyword, the variable becomes constant. It can't be changed after it's initialized. For example, final int max user equal to 100. Max users now act like a constant. Trying to assign it a new value will result in a compilation error. Best practices. To write clean and maintainable code, use clear descriptive variable names like user age instead of x. Replace hard-coded values with final constants. Limit variable scope to where it's needed. Always initialize variables close to where they are first used. To summarize, variables store data. They have a type, a scope, and a lifetime. Local, instance, and static variables each serve a different purpose. Use meaningful names, initialize thoughtfully, and follow Java's best practices.